Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to yet again another fantastic indie creator interview. It's your Caper Sarah and we're keeping it geekly with our two new guests. We have Brennan Knight and Max Dravenport. We're here to break down Tyrant issue 1 and 2 and everything in between, guys. I had the chance to read a little bit of issue 1, and this was such an awesome book. I just love how detailed and graphic it gets, and I cannot wait to check out issue 2. Before we dive into any more of that, let's begin with the basics, guys. Who are you, and how you guys got into creating comics?
I'm Brennan Knight. I'm the writer of Tyrant. I got into writing comics because it was the only thing I was good at. It really was just, was reading comics and was like, oh wait, I can kind of do this. And specifically it was one of a printing of Grant Morrison's Arkham Asylum. Had a script in the back, and I think that was when it really clicked in my head. It's like, oh wait a minute, someone has to write this out, then it gets made. And I was like, oh, I can do that. And that was kind of how it started.
I'm Max Dravenport. I'm the artist on Tyrant and co-creator. I would say the way I started with comics was way back in the day. Probably the old X-Men animated series.
Ooh, yeah, the good one.
Got me. That's probably the first time I can remember being completely enthralled with the idea of sort of fantastically based visual storytelling. I've always been a fan of movies and video games and things like that, but I wasn't going to do movies. And at 7 years old, so comics was sort of the lowest hanging fruit, the most easily available thing, and it's sort of just followed this trajectory ever since.
It's life hits different after Saturday mornings, waking up with a bowl of cereal, watching X-Men. What was it, Recess? You guys remember Recess as well? There's so many awesome cartoons. What about that? What about the animated X-Men really drew you into it?
I had never really seen superheroes before. My town didn't actually, ironically, where I grew up didn't have a lot of comic book shops. There was one place that sold, it was a general gaming store. Mm-hmm. And I didn't find out about that until years and years later. So I was like, what is that? Superheroes, that X-Men, they can do things? And that was sort of, that was my first exposure to the whole medium, and it sort of has taken on a life of its own ever since.
So when did you start diving into the sequential art side of things?
That was around somewhere in high school. I knew people made comics, but I didn't really understand the pathway, how to get there. It was sort of between comics and I was, in that point in high school, you're thinking about where do I go from here? And at that point, it was kind of between comics and viz dev for video games and things. And I got encouraged in the direction of comics, for better or worse. And I went to school for that, and then here I am now. 15 years later.
Hey, I mean, it paid off though. Your pencils are gorgeous. I loved. I just. It was such a hard time for me not to keep soaking in those interiors, man. Brendan, what about you? I read some of your work too. You have a couple titles out right now. Give us a little bit about some of the titles that you've been involved with.
Oh yeah. Well, let's see. So my first two leaps into comic were actually things that I sat down and I kind of just, I didn't even break down panels or stuff. I just wrote out two different stories, and then went back, did some panel breakdowns, edited them up a little bit. But yeah, so the first one was Trench Stalker, which was a World War I horror story. And then I did with oh my God, JP Shaik, I think is his last name. I can't remember pronunciation. Which he was very, when he read my script, he was very complimentary, and that was my first script. So I was like, yeah, I can do this. Yeah, this is good vibes coming off of this first project. And then Echoes Among the Stars was the second one, which I did with Sebastian Perez. And that was, again, one of those, I just like wrote it out, did some brief edits, and then, and then we had it drawn. And I actually entered that into a contest and was a runner-up in the contest.
Oh, congratulations, man.
Again, yeah, and again, it was like one of those things. It's like, okay, maybe I can do this. And then after that, I think the next one, and around that time, actually, I'm trying to get all my pieces together. Then the pandemic hit, and I contacted Max and was like, hey, there's this other contest coming up. Do you want to work together on it? And he was like, this is strange. People aren't really hiring during a pandemic right now. And I was like, yeah, I get you. But yeah, then we crushed out the Lex Non Est Justitium, which was the forebearer of Tyrant Fall, and that again was another finalist in a similar contest. So I was like, hey, 2 for 2 in these contests, pretty good. Yeah, and then I've done other stuff. With Apox Wonder, which I did with Francesca Fantini, and
that was a really interesting one too. That was the one with Killer Looks and Prince Power. They were like superheroes that were in a gladiator ring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was another another contest, but it was like, oh, you have to do like it was prompts. So I had to use fit in certain prompts. So it was like super, like it was like gladiator battle, and then something. It was something about like one of the lines in the book. I cannot remember it, but that it was like you have to use this line, and so that's where that came from. And then I did another short, which I didn't share with you, but I was supposed to go into the Big Hype Comics anthology. And I did that with, oh my God, Corolla. And I'm blanking on her last name right now. I feel so embarrassed. But she has been doing stuff like Deadliest Bouquet at Image.
Wow.
She was actually the artist for the framing narrative in a recent Marvel annual, which I was like, whoa, way to go. Great, Corolla. So I've been working on all kinds of stuff. And then Tyrant Fall is the backbone of my comic book career right now.
So you said you had something in a Project Big Hype?
Big Hype 3, which unfortunately got canceled. Yeah. So
I was gonna say, because I had 1 and 2, I was like, I can read that in just a little bit.
Now Max has something in 2, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna check that out after the interview, man.
It's a good one. I was with paired up with Rob Pilkington from TKO and some other things. He had done Dame in the Dark, which was a short story with them, and then he wrote this great little sort of Martian horror story that I got to flex my my spacefaring chops.
That sounds like it was such a fun one for you too.
Oh yeah, it was good.
That's awesome.
It was equal parts like Starship Troopers and lost my train of thought. It was great.
Yeah, it was very alien looking. Yeah. So I actually was mistaken. I read the foreword. I don't think I've read it. Was that in issue 1 too, or is that a standalone outside of issue 1? For Tyrant Fall.
Tyrant Fall. The short that you probably read. The original short is the first 8 pages of issue 1.
Okay. So we could talk about that then, or is that still spoiler?
No, that's online for everyone to see.
All right.
We posted all 8 pages in the first campaign, because it was already, the contest we had entered it in. They put it in like an anthology for people to just download. So it's out there. But yeah, the first 8 pages, that was a big moment. Me and Max, vibing. It was actually one of the first times a creator has actually been like, hey, can I call you so we can talk about this? And I was like, no one's ever wanted to talk to me about this stuff, really. not at least over a phone. And so yeah, then we talked about it, and we got this vibe. I was like, I want to play off of your these like pinups you've been doing of these like kind of heavy metal style girls, and then we built it from there.
Max, your designs are just so brutal. I loved the red dragon. She just looks like a beast with her mace, and that the first introduction to her smashing a dude's brains in. I was like, this is definitely a book that I want to read. Like, what went into some of your creative design with this?
It's all it's just this big old love letter to my favorite visual styles, like all my biggest influences. I remember probably when I was maybe a little bit too young, being exposed to those heavy metal magazines with like the big busty ladies with the giant weapons.
Weapons.
And at one point, I was doing this drawing challenge where I drew one thing every day all year, and when I found out when I was doing it that you're kind of reaching for ideas sometimes. And so at one point I was just like, what, screw it. I'm just going to do I'm going to have as much fun with this as possible. So I was like big, bombastic, scantily clad warrior ladies, all very much in the style of those old heavy metal characters. And Brennan saw them and was like, these are awesome. Yeah. Here's my idea for this story. And so I just wanted to sort of honor that intention, mostly visually speaking, is sort of follow that idea of I can't even crystallize it into a single reference point. It's just there's this very singular image in my head of these crazy warrior ladies that are kind of weirdly deeply nostalgic for me.
You guys ever watch Futurama? You remember? I can't remember what the snooze. Yes, yes.
Yeah, maybe that's maybe that's the way to encapsulate it in
I love it.
One clear thing. So not everybody in the comic is like that. We kind of reserve that sort of design methodology for a select few type of characters, but it all kind of follows from this weird European sort of influence of all these older French artists, mostly if I'm thinking of it, Mobius, Enki Bilal, Philippe Drouet. I'm probably getting some of those names wrong.
Way better than I would. No, I really love how you challenge yourself to draw something each and every day. I often hear about writers doing something similar where they write a poem or a short saying every day, and usually some of that is not going to be good, but they'll get one or two really awesome pieces out of that. What did you kind of do to push yourself? I know you said you wanted to have fun, but mentally, was there anything you did to kind of push yourself to finish out that year? 365 drawings sounds like a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. I don't know. There's this one artist that I still follow. His name is Ransom Getty, and he did a similar thing the year before, and I thought, wow, that looks really fulfilling to do. And I was not really working on anything at the time. I thought it'd be a good way to build out my sort of content, for lack of a better word, but also just hone my craft and get better at you hear this thing sometimes when you talk to artists it's really hard to draw when I'm not inspired, and I really didn't want to rely on that. So I thought that would be a good way to I
love it.
Attack that way of thinking and just make inspiration mine. So that was probably basically the biggest motivating factor is the idea of not having to wait to be struck by a bolt of inspirational lightning, just to be able to sit down and just make something. And there, like, don't get me wrong, there were certainly days where it was like, shit, I got like 5 minutes and it's going to be midnight and like I have to just draw anything. And like there's some stuff in there that I'm not super proud of, but the endeavor as a whole, I'm very proud of myself for tackling. Didn't miss a day.
And staying dedicated too. Even if you had that 5 minutes, you still got it done. You could have just been like, I'm not going to do it today. But the fact that you got it done speaks volumes about your work ethic as well. We have Nefarious over on YouTube joining us to say, good morning, nerds. Welcome to the stream. I hope you're doing well. Brennan, you mentioned that you've worked with several collaborators. How did it feel when Max wanted to make that phone call? Like, you know, how did you feel about the collaborative process at that point?
Well, first, real quick, just want to, I remembered Corolla's last name. It's Borelli, so Corolla Borelli. So I just wanted to make sure I get that out there.
That'd be a hard one to remember, though.
Yeah. And very sweet, very kind individual. I'm very glad I got to work with her, especially how talented she is. But yeah, that first phone call actually was in addition to being like, oh, this is the first like creator that wants to talk to me. It was also very anxiety inducing because I'm not a big phone talker. So I was like, oh God, I got to talk to someone on the phone. But no, so it was very, very nice and helped me ease into it. That, you know, the guy on the other line was very, very, very kind, very patient, it seems. It just was like, hey, it's Max. It's good to talk to you. I just want to talk about this project. And, you know, then we just went from there. And it's been a partnership and friendship ever since.
You know, as a Dark Souls player, you got to be patient, right? You got to have that little bit of patience to keep going.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how did you guys come up with the idea for Tyrant? You both are the creators of this series, correct?
Yeah, we're the co-creators. So it was so, you know, like I mentioned it before we started, but, you know, we got to the end of the 8 pages and, you know, once I submitted it, I contacted the team and I was like, hey, just wanted to let you know, if this ever becomes something more, would you want to work on this still? And they were all like, yeah, sure, just let us know if you got anything. So I kind of benched it for a little bit and was like, I don't know what to do with this at all. Like, what's the next direction? And around that time, I was rereading Dragon Ball from start, like early Kid Goku stuff, and reading a huge collection of old heavy metals that I had inherited. Like, someone was like, hey, I've got a bunch of these like old heavy metals here, check them out. And I was like, oh, cool. So, you know, reading these at the same time, and I was like, you know what is interesting? A lot of these choices that were made in Dragon Ball are like kind of similar to choices made for stuff in heavy metal. You know, you have weird like mixes of sci-fi and fantasy, weird technologies that like don't really make sense. Like, oh, you have largely agrarian cultures in this world of Dragon Ball, but like then you have flying cars and stuff. It's like, wait, where's this like weird disconnect? And I was like, and then you get stuff like that where you have like weird technologies that are like super advanced, yet other parts of society are super regressed, and all kinds of stuff. It's like, it's almost as if you could print Dragon Ball in Heavy Metal magazine, and I was like sitting there and I was like, what if Dragon Ball was published in Heavy Metal magazine? And then like that clicked and I was like, perfect. So then I like, you know, I contacted Max. I was like, hey, you know, I got this angle on what comes next. And so again, we talked up, you know, I was like, it's a mix of Dragon Ball and going off of the heavy metal stuff we did. And so then you talked about our experiences with Dragon Ball, and, you know, it, you know, developed from there. Like, we were both like, Dragon Ball Z was a huge part of my childhood. It's core part of several friendships I had when I was a kid. And, you know, then we, you know, just went from there and developing characters based off of this idea. It's Dragon Ball meets Heavy Metal magazine. So,
oh man, hot take. Do you think so I with DBZ fans in particular, I think the series should have ended right when he turned Super Saiyan, right when he fought Frieza. That's what it was supposed to.
That's so funny because I say the same thing. I'm like, I feel like if Dragon Ball had ended after he beats Frieza, everyone's on Earth again. It ends there. I'm like, that's a perfect ending because it's the full encapsulation of a Saiyan arc.
Yeah.
I don't mind that it keeps going because we get all kinds of cool characters after that. But no, I agree. I'm like, I think narratively it is like super strong if you just end right after beating Frieza.
And they did Gohan such an injustice. The one-armed Gohan was such a badass, and then we got Saiyan Man. And I know that's hit or miss for a lot of people, but then I heard he's getting redeemed in the newer stuff. I haven't seen a lot of the newer stuff. Have you guys?
No. Oh no.
No.
I'm seeing some of it. I'm reading like the big Gohan story arc they're adapting right now into manga. So
okay. Yeah, I heard he turns into a badass. But speaking of badass, let's get back to Tyrant. The Red Dragon. She is a beast to be reckoned with. What's her story? Why is she so bloodthirsty?
That's a you question, Brennan, I think.
Oh yeah. Okay. Red Dragon. Not a lot we can say. She has a lot of history that we haven't really dove into, but just at the core of it, like the Red Dragon, it's her name, but it's also her title. It's like one of those things that once you become the Red Dragon, like that's your identity. Like you don't have a name. You are known as the Red Dragon, and there are several dragons in this world. But the Red Dragons are known for being just the most, the strongest, the most, like that is their key thing, is that they are strong, that they are powerful, that they will beat you down.
Literally.
So, yeah. And so, she's exactly. So she's a fine inheritor of the title. It's like the perfect encapsulation of what it means to be a Red Dragon.
Oh, I love that. Max, let me throw the ball on something you can talk about, though, with how like alive like all these background characters look. Like your pencils are just, like I cannot stress this enough, beautiful. And like even your background characters look like they have a story. There's that one character we were talking about backstage who looked like he had like a Mega Man blaster and the metal leg, which Brennan, you were talking about how you had like the world balance, like where there's technology and then it's regressed in certain areas. And I think that was a perfect like example of it too. You really put a lot of effort into these designs, Max. What was some of when you're getting ready to create the art, what's your routine look like? Do you put some music on or maybe a TV show in the background? Like, what's that look like for you?
Yeah, over the course of my last 2 or 3 projects, I've sort of built the habit of creating a playlist for each book. So that's what I'm doing with Tyrant right now. I just sort of, Spotify has this wonderful enhance feature, which I guess some people don't love it, but I love the ability to just like punch 1 or 2 artists in and then like build a playlist from that. And so I've been doing that for Tyrant and that's sort of, like other than like getting some coffee going and just sort of setting myself up mentally, like this is what we're doing now. That's kind of my ritual. Throw on that playlist and get some coffee.
What's that playlist look like, if you don't mind me asking?
So it started off as a lot of Rage Against the Machine, a lot of MF Doom. If anybody watching has followed me on Twitter, I asked at one point, like, give me your top MF Doom albums or songs. That's what that was for. There's Wu-Tang, of course. Blind Guardian. It's like this weird mix of like power metal, alt rock from my youth that gets me back in that like nostalgic heavy metal tone and like gangster rap.
I love it.
And like there's this one guy, if I could plug a random musician, his name is like Toxic Eternity. That's what his name is on Spotify. And he has like 10 albums of just like power metal covers of all these anime and video game pieces of music that you've like grown up with. And that's like so much of the playlist is just like awesome power metal riffs like that. Yeah.
I love it. We gotta get Max doing some air solos again sometime on the show.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
I think right now would be a perfect segue. Let's go ahead and transition over to the campaign and check out the Kickstarter and see what all the hype is about. So give me 1 second. We're gonna be heading over this way, and then Max, you said you had some original art as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, one of our reward tiers is you can own some of the art that made the comic happen. So I brought some with me. We got some original Tyrant issue 2 pages.
So everything is done traditionally?
Oh yeah.
Oh my god, that is gorgeous.
This is page 1. Can you guys see this okay? Do I need to turn light on?
I mean, it looks very detailed to me.
All right, cool.
Looks good.
Holy crap. Brennan, I can see why you held on to Max.
Yep. Yeah, you have to.
Oops.
Oh, I can go through. I got 5 of them here. I can go through all.
Oh
5
yeah, these are so gorgeous. Holy crap. Look at that decapitated head too.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, a lot of good detail.
The jaw like hanging out. That is so brutal.
Oh, should we get closer on that one? I had fun figuring out how to do this.
Like, Max, you seem like you should be drawing like death metal like albums. We have Mary Campbell over on Facebook saying, "What is up, you crazy kid?" Hey, Mary, thank you for joining us. I appreciate that. It's good to see you.
Yeah, all these pages are drawn traditionally. I have sort of a hybrid process where I do a little bit digitally and I do a little bit traditionally, but the finish is always traditional.
Oh, you know that is that an escape pod right there? That almost looks just like a DBZ one.
Oh, this?
Yeah.
No, that's a close up on this dude's head.
I gotcha.
But it's funny you mentioned that because as well as like all those heavy metal influences, Akira Toriyama is highly influential on the way I've been doing tech for this project. He's got this art book that he did showcasing a lot of his design work in like the Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z universe, and the way he like reinterprets vehicles in Dragon Ball Z is like absolutely insane. I love it.
And the groundbreaking right there too. That is so gorgeous. Holy crap. How long did that bottom panel take? There is just so much going on there.
That was like, that single panel was, it's hard to say because I split my time between like my day job and stuff, but
yeah,
5 hours.
That is gorgeous, man. Holy crap.
Thank you.
Brennan, how do you feel when you start seeing some of this artwork hit your emails? Like, you have to be euphoric at that point.
Yeah, well, so me and Max will do like some rough layouts of stuff, and then I'll give like an idea of what it's gonna look like. But yeah, once I see the final pages, I'm like, oh my god, like every page I'm like, thank God Max, no one else is picking up Max right now. I mean, I'm a little selfish in that way.
Look at that hand, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, everything's backwards. Trying to move it in frame.
No, yeah. So yeah, Max, it's an absolute joy and privilege to be working with Max because you get stuff like this.
Yeah, that is gorgeous, man. Holy crap. If I ever become a writer, I need to hire you too. Like,
hey,
dude.
Hey now. Hey now.
He's like,
you
gotta go through me first.
Yeah.
So let's take a moment and check out the Kickstarter, guys. Right here is a link for everyone to check it out with us. If you can back, we would love to see it. But if not, simply putting this wherever you can. Word of mouth is 100% free, and you will definitely have a friend or family member who is going to love this series. We are looking at Tyrant issue 2 plus issue 1 catch-up, inspired by Dragon Ball Z and Heavy Metal Magazine. The Kung Fu Fantasy Adventure hits back with its second issue. Currently at $6,612 of a $8,000 goal with 151 backers and 24 hours left to go. Man, this is a gorgeous, gorgeous story. So give us a little bit about the Fae Lords too. I love that little introduction in that 8-page story that I read. Like how you actually, it was like a story, it was storyception almost. Like how was a story within a story?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was one of the things, is like part of the exercise of the short story, the original short, was trying to fit in so much world building into, like, packing a world full of world building without having to unravel everything. So like the short story was just like a quick, like, 2 panels. It helps you say like, oh, there's been a lot of history to this world. But yeah, and then when Max was doing it, he's like, what if I, crop the edges, the corners, and then when he communicated with Roman, I'm not going to speak, but Max had told me, he said like, hey, this is kind of what we're going for, and Roman was able to kind of capture those vibes.
Yeah, shouts out to Roman Stevens, by the way, our colorist on this book. Totally killing it. My stuff would not look nearly as good if we didn't have Roman slapping around his pigments.
Right here we have that one character I was telling, like this, every character looks like they have their own unique story in the background. It's amazing. Like you put so much heart and detail into this.
Thank you. Yeah, that's how I make, like, background characters, full disclosure, are not the most exciting thing to draw. And like that's how I make it fun for myself. It's like every time I draw somebody, like I couldn't tell you what these guys are at this point. A couple of them, like I had said in backstage, a couple of them are based on people I know, but like other than that, I couldn't tell you what I came up with for them at the time. But like every time I am working on these guys, I'm like, yeah, this guy owns like a barbershop, and that's why his hair looks like this, or that kind of thing.
I love that though. That little prompt kind of gives you a little bit more to work off of though, right? Like okay, well maybe we'll give him a big mustache, or maybe we'll style his hair a certain way. Like that's awesome way of like kind of thinking it to give new like meaning and life into those characters. And her entrance into here, I just thought that every page was just filled with so much detail. Like they're eating, and then she kicks the door in, and then their fight is brutal as well. But right here, this is like a completely different art style, it feels like. I mean, what kind of went into this? What went into this part of it?
This is a part of the script where we, if we're reading the pages, we understand that what's happening is sort of like a retelling of the history. It's a very elegantly crafted bit of exposition where we're sort of getting like a flashback. And so when I read this in the script, I floated this idea to Brennan of like to really sell the flashback feel, to maybe do it in like all pencil. And Brennan was down with it, so we tried it. I think it worked wonderfully. I gave Roman, I've said on a couple other occasions, I don't give Roman like a ton of notes, but here we wanted like a very specific feel. So I gave him like a very specific breakdown of the colors we want to use to sort of separate it. And
it almost feels like it should belong on like a Led Zeppelin album cover.
Oh, interesting.
You know what I mean? It has that feel, that old school feel to it. I love it, man. I love it.
And Roman, to his credit, did this wonderful thing that none of us asked for, where if you look at the panel borders, there are no panel borders, which I think were drawn in there originally. He lost them, and he sort of rounded out the corners, and it's such this powerful but like subtle effect to really give you that like break of like, we are not in the present day anymore. And it feels like like I look at it and I feel like we're sort of unfurling like a scroll, which is very much what I was going for.
I remember when I was reading through it, just like how immersive it felt. Like like she was reading the book, and you actually got to go inside the book, and that's where you started leaking out more of this exposition. Brennan, that was an awesome job. Right? I don't know if that was your idea, but as the writer, that I'm kind of assuming that was your direction.
Yeah, that we were going kind of going into the book. Yeah, it is just a basic retelling of, like, again, trying to fit in a lot of world building into this world. So a basic retelling of the world and how it's kind of gotten here.
That is awesome.
And it moves from the main character when she's a girl, Mirda. She's the one kind of doing the exposition, and then it transitions into Red Dragon, who kind of like goes, Myrda's doing like, oh, it used to be like this, and then Red Dragon cuts in and it's like, well, but now it's like this.
And I love how she was like, is this your late family? I'm like, oh, you are devious.
Yeah.
Like, damn, we already know what your intentions are. And I love this big showdown between them two. It was so brutal, and you had so much hope for Grandpa too. Like, oh.
Yeah.
I remember when I seen this image, I was like, this is brutal. But after reading the 8 pages, like, oh my God, no! Like, so are all red dragons like capable of this? Like, what's kind of going on here? I know in the 8 pages, we learn about rogue magic and how that's a capital punishment. It seems like she's using something that looks a little similar to magic, though.
Yeah, so it's definitely a hierarchy thing where like the whole premise is that the ruling class is dictating who can use magic.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, they can use magic because they make the rules. So yeah, she does use magic. I don't remember how it started, but yeah, I think I came up with this idea. I was like, when the dragons, like one of the signature things about them is that when they're really using magic or really like going all out, like they become monstrous and like unhinge their jaws and stuff and just look like monsters. And so, you see it here, the red dragon, it's like her mouth is unhinged. She's more dragon like. And then, another character we'll meet in the preview, and actually Max showed us in the original art, the red drake. He does the same thing where like when he gets irked at one point and it comes out a little bit.
Oh, that's so brutal. And I love the sidekick on the shoulder too. I'm a big fan of like little creatures on the shoulder, like like BD1, like dude, anything like that. It's so what is that creature? Or is that spoiler?
Oh, no spoiler. He's just he's a lieutenant of the Red Drake, this new character.
Oh, I love it.
And yeah, he's a little gremlin dude. Kind of inspired, like the Red Drake, and well, the Red Drake is not really inspired by, but his lieutenants are kind of inspired by the Ginyu Force from Dragon Ball, and so like there's some similarities, but there's some similarities, but they're wholly original in their own regard. So I was like, well, the Ginyu Force kind of had a short little dude, so we're going to have a short little dude too.
See, and oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead. I
was about the fanboy, man, and like that just goes back to why Dragon Ball Z should have ended at the Namek, because like, dude, when Ginyu like body swapped with Goku, that I was just like, what?
Yep.
What? Like, dude, that was so brutal. So is that little side? Was that the dude with the 3 eyes? The one that like right here in the middle, is the short guy, the green guy?
Yeah, it was he's inspired by him, and I also drew some inspiration from a couple like Yu-Gi-Oh monsters, but in the end I was just like, I want this guy to be small. I want him to be gross looking and look monstrous, but like he's not a monster. Like he's not a threat, it seems, he's just gross. And so no, I really like that, especially considering how big and buff the other characters are, how ripped they are.
There was something about the Ginyu Force, like the way they were all like Chads, but they were all such meatheads too, right? They were like the dumbest thing ever. It's just the dance. I don't know what about the dance, but I loved it so much.
Yeah, I love the Ginyu Force too.
Ooh, and then we have some spoilers. So we actually got to see the pencils for this, and seeing it in color is like, holy crap. I'm having a hard time deciding which one I love the most. Like, dude, your black and white is just gorgeous as well, too. Holy crap.
Yeah, it's a treat seeing, again, yeah, just like you said, you're like, oh, like I get Max's pages and I'm like, this is amazing. I get Roman's pages and like, this is also amazing. Like,
it's like second Christmas.
Yeah, basically,
So Max, how do you feel when you get to see colors like added to your pencils? Like, this has to be Christmas for you as well.
Yeah, no, this is one of my favorite things about doing this whole thing is getting to collaborate with awesome, talented people like Roman. It's such a treat to get the inbox. And then like I would be lying if I said like it's not a little bit of a guilty pleasure to like get the odd note and like be like, can we like tweak this a little bit? And then like it happens because I asked for it.
Max is starting to get power hungry. You better watch out.
No, I feel the same way. I feel the same way about writing scripts, where I just write something and then Max creates it. And I'm like, excellent, perfect.
It's just gonna be one big change of like a line of changes. Like Brennan's like, okay, Max, and then Max is like, okay, now you need to do this.
Yeah.
So this is cool too. See, so is this like a team of red dragons right here, or is Red Dragon their in particular title?
So the gentleman with the red like pauldron and shoulder pads in the middle there, yeah, that's the Red Drake. He's kind of a rival to the Red Dragon, and then the people that are like kind of immediate around him, they're his Ginyu force.
Oh,
so, yeah, they're his lieutenants. We call them the Wyvern Knights.
I love it so much. Like, what inspired you guys to go with like the play on dragons and around like the dragon like medium? Like that's unique. That's awesome. I love the play on words too. Like, awesome.
Yeah. So that was it was another thing where I wanted to do like with the short story. I wanted to do again very contained world building, and I wanted to do a fantasy story, but a major antagonistic in a lot of fantasy stories are dragons.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, bring those in here. But to not confuse it, it's like, oh, well, there are dragons, but there used to be mythical dragons too, but they're gone now. And so there's just these dragons, these super powerful people. And then, to break it down, I was like, oh, and of course, they have lieutenants that are like, it's vaguely like in the short, like they're referenced as being they're implied to be like a police force, the Wyvern Knights. And so, it just went out from there where I was like, oh, well, she needs an antagonist. Oh, and it's the Red Drake is what he's going to be called. And so then you have these like breakdowns of just like a hierarchy. But no, it was all just, you have these people that are super powerful and rule the world, and they're just, they've replaced with the actual dragons that used to live in this world. Like those guys are long gone, and so you're stuck with these humans, these super powered superhumans.
No, I love it. We have a Nordic Uni over on Twitch stopping in to say, yo, welcome to the stream. I hope you're having a fantastic day as well. Let's go ahead and check out some of these rewards. So we can get at the Sedation tier, pledge $5 or more, receive a digital deluxe copy of Tyrant Fall issue 2. So what's going to be in the deluxe edition?
So the deluxe edition, it's going to be the comic itself, and you also get some back matter material. For issue 1, our digital deluxe had like process pages, some like world building ephemera, essentially, like a letter from a soldier to their loved one at home.
Oh, that's cool.
Like talks about some things, but like there's some, not going to say key plot points, but there's some like stuff that's like, oh, that's okay, I get where this points to something in the comic itself. Fills out those holes in the story that you don't necessarily need to cover in the story itself, but just kind of fleshes the world out. We also, but for 2, one of the big things that we can announce for issue 2 in the back matter, we did a draw this in your own style of one of our new characters that we introduced in this issue, and we're the winner of that contest is going to get a free signed copy of the comic and a set of stickers. Also, we're going to include all entrants in the back matter of issue 2. So everyone will get to see the all these different interpretations of our one of the new characters, Foosh, who's one of the members of the Red Drake's Ginyu Force. I
love the names too. You guys are killing it with these characters and names. So after that, we have Sabotage, pledge $5 or more, receive a physical copy of Tyrant Fall issue 2. So awesome price for the physical there. At Riot, pledge 10 or more, receive the digital deluxe and a physical copy. We have Revolt at 15. Receive the digital deluxe digital deluxe copy for issue 1 and 2 plus physical copy up to. You guys have some outstanding tiers and prices here. Holy crap. Mutiny 20 or more and receive the physical copies and digital deluxe copies of issue 1 and 2. I mean, you guys have such awesome tiers. Takeover pledge 30 or more. What's this tier about?
So that one actually really great. We got to work with it's Annan, right? Annan.
I believe that is how we pronounce it.
Annan Ramcharan, who's this amazing artist. Max Connect was like, hey, I think we should, one, we should do a variant cover, and 2, I think we should work with Annan. And I looked, I was like, 100% agree. We got in contact, we talked about it, and lo and behold, this is the fruits of his labors.
Gorgeous too.
Amazing. It's super dope. I'm really, really happy with it, how it turned out. Both me and Max had the same kind of parallel thought when we were seeing this. Where it was like, what if Annan drew Tyrant Fall? And I was like, no, Max is the artist for Tyrant Fall. Never going to be replaced. But I was like, but
so
no.
Max, was Annan like a friend of yours or someone you looked up to, when you were doing starting out?
Yeah, we come from the same background, and I've never met Annan in real life, but we've followed each other for a while on
that's so cool though,
social media stuff.
Like that has to feel awesome to be able to throw like someone who's like same background as you, like a variant cover on your project. That had to feel like a really awesome thing to do.
Yeah, I think if we could zoom out from the project for a second, I as a creator who is part of a community of creators, I think it's important to lift others up when I can. And we had an opportunity for a variant cover, so I went through my Rolodex, and Annan was like a perfect fit. I threw some names at Brennan. I was kind of like thinking Annan would probably be the one, and then I think that was the first one, Brennan, that you came back. You were like, this guy.
Yeah.
So
I remember I had seen some of Annan's work, like, because I believe I followed Annan on Twitter, and then eventually followed on Instagram. But I was like, I had seen the stuff before. Does kind of hit those vibes that we're going for. So just perfect fit.
And guys, if you guys needed a reason to back, right there would be a perfect one. The fact that you want to give back to creators in the community to help, push them up, such an awesome thing to do, Max. This looks like one hell of a tier 2, and this is one that's kind of targeted at you. Give us a little bit about what this tier is about, Max.
The Insurrection. I've forgotten what names are which.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is where you get all the prints and stuff. Yeah, so if you would like to get some of my art, and you don't necessarily have the budget for the larger original art or commission tiers, this is like the perfect fit. Gets you all these prints and stuff. We've got some character design prints. We've got the Red Dragon Rage, which was Brennan hit me up. When did we start talking about issue 2? Like,
it was like late January.
Yeah, he hit me up, and I was getting excited, and I just I had nothing else on my plate at the time. I was in a moment of calm, and I was like, this is too calm. I need to spice it up, and I decided actually I call them my booby lady drawings, the ones that spawned this whole idea. I was like, wait, Red Dragon doesn't have her own booby lady drawing. So I decided she needed one. And if you look at the Red Dragon Rage pin up there, it's very much in the style of the drawings that inspired this whole collaborative effort to begin with. So that's cool. You get a little bit of a peek into like the genesis of this whole thing. And yeah, just some excellent prints in general.
And I mean, our prints are always pretty to hang up on the wall, right? Like, get Red Dragon up on your wall. She is a gorgeous character, and your wall deserves it. I mean, make your wall happy. Just some outstanding tiers here. We have some awesome ones right here, too. So you can get a 6x10 waist up inked character commission for $200. Is this going to be any character they want or a character from the series?
For the most part, any character you want, including characters from the series. It needs to be a well-established, fairly Googleable. That's sort of the only requirement. Yeah.
And then we have at $350 or more, you can get yourself some of those original art pages that we've seen earlier, and we'll go ahead and zoom in. Great price on those too. I mean, for $350, this is outstanding work. I almost want to be like, yo, like just hold it up for like an hour. Like let's just really examine some of this. Because like on an iPad or any digital medium, you could zoom in, and really hit those details. But like on pencil and paper, pen and paper, you really don't have that luxury.
Yeah, and it's really satisfying just to be able to get to like hold something. You talked about like wall art earlier. This is my kind of wall art. I love having like original handcrafted, like literal works of art, and not just for comics. I mean, definitely buy our comic pages, but like animation cells.
Oh yeah.
Like different like misprints on like screen printing, silk screen type deals.
Here, hold on. Let me zoom you in again on that. you like held it up. I was like, I missed the zoom. That was we're gonna have to clip that. That was funny. Almost got whiplash from. Whoa. Okay, there we go. I zoomed in on myself. I was like, don't do this. So, guys, after going through that in its entirety, for anyone who might be on the fence about backing, what would you like to say to them directly to kind of help push them over? We'll start with Brennan first.
Well, I'd say one of the big things about this project for me is that it and Max touched on it earlier. The nostalgia of it. I guess like. I'm a huge fan of Dragon Ball Z. Like this scratches that itch for more. It's a love letter to not only just Dragon Ball Z, but all those cartoons that were on, the afternoon block on Cartoon Network when it was Toonami for 2 hours, and you're watching, Dragon Ball, Yu Yu Hakusho, Gundam Wing, like that kind of energy you got where you like rushing home from the school bus. You get home, plop yourself down in front of the TV, and you're just watching. Like for me also, it was like your first exposure to anime, and like that sense of cool that you got when you talked about it with your friends, and you're all about it. It's also just it's you can feel, not to speak for himself, but you can feel the passion that we're all putting into it. We didn't mention him at all. But Rob Jones, the letterer, he comes out, he delivers excellent lettering and
he did the logo
sound effects, and he did the logo here, right over here on my screen, right there. But
shout out to Rob, you rock, man. Thank you.
Yeah, Rob is a machine, a gosh darn machine. I know I put my passion and my love for not only the inspiration, but also just the creation of comics. It goes into this project, and then I feel that from Max, from Roman, from Roman and Rob, and it's very much just us. It's us. This book has a good slice of us in it. So nostalgia, the pure passion behind it, and it's just a freaking cool book. I mean, when I pick it up. I still pick up the first issue from time to time and just flip through and go, this is a really cool comic. I love this. So yeah.
Yeah. And to speak on that nostalgic point, like it's not just nostalgia, because it is very much its own thing. And I hope, like, because, like, I don't know, I feel like when we talk about the nostalgia of it too much, it may take younger people sort of away from it, because, like, oh, this is not for me. But it totally is. It's very much of its own making. But it has this wonderful aspect where, like, if you are a younger person, you pick it up and read it, you'll be able to, like, identify these styles and references that come from, like, a time before it. And if you are passionate about, like, the medium and these kinds of stories, it'll give you a lot of little, like, threads to follow up on. Like, why are the dragons structured the way they are? What is the Ginyu Force? And, like, it doesn't rely on a knowledge of any of that stuff. But if you're curious, it totally, it can be like a window into sort of pop culture history that way. At least that's kind of the way I think of it.
I'll tell you what, you almost put me in a midlife crisis there when you said younger people, and I'm like thinking, I'm like, dude, I'm 33, I'm not old, and I'm like, oh my god, that is old. Like, yeah, sure. I'm almost midlife.
I'm
like
30. I'm 33. I teach high schoolers. We're old. Sorry.
So, guys, what's next for you in 2023 outside of Tyrant issue 2? You guys got any other projects up your sleeve? I mean, how many issues are we looking at for this series?
Well, I'm right now. I'm working on the script for issue 3. We're going to go to issue 5. The dream is one day, issue 5, being the end of the first, what would be the first story arc, or if Tyrant Fall were to end there, it'd be a full story in itself. No regrets, walk away with a smile on my face. The dream, the guilty dream, is to one day do the 30-issue full story that I have planned for it. But we're focusing on the first 5, and I'm super excited. The end of issue 5 is going to be crazy as well. But so script for issue 3 going on right now. I'm writing some other just comic short stuff. I've got a kid on the way, and so
congratulations, man. Let's go.
Have to cut back on my my budget for comic stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be working on some prose stuff as well.
How far along, if you don't mind me asking?
For how far along? 15 weeks, I think. 15 weeks today. Yeah.
The first kid?
First kid, yeah.
Oh, let's go, dude. Oh, man, you better get a lot of coffee. I
have to acquire a taste for coffee first. I'm not a coffee drinker, but maybe this will do it. Maybe this will break it. But so yeah, I'm working on some prose pieces. The current one being it's kind of in the way that Tyrant Fall is to Dragon Ball Z. This prose is to Pokemon. It's basically about this organization that used to have this giant catalog of, zoology and mythical zoology stuff, information, and it got burned up. So now their various members are traveling the world, essentially recreating the Pokedex.
I love it. That, like Pokemon Legends Arceus, kind of reminds...
A little bit like that, yeah.
That's so awesome. Congratulations once again. Max, what about you? I almost need to make a series where when the writer tells the artist, like, yeah, I got a 30-issue idea. And like your face when you're like, oh, 30 issues, you say, like, I got to draw all that. Like, come on.
Yeah, that'll happen when it happens, hopefully. As long as you guys keep showing love to the Kickstarter, I'm sure we'll keep making them. We might keep making them anyway because, like, we love it.
So what else are you working on, though? I mean, anything outside of Tyrant Fall or just this series for you this year?
Yeah, so I do have some other irons in the fire. I think Brennan, correct me if I'm wrong, this might be it for Tyrant Fall for this year. But
this year, yes.
But I've got another project which won't see publication until 2025, it's likely, unfortunately, but it's really cool, gritty cyberpunk dystopian comic called Neon Graveyard. I haven't shared a lot of it, but it is some of the stuff that's been approved is on my Instagram and Twitter if you can delve deep enough. We've got one issue of that in the bag, and I'm going to be doing some more of that later this year. I have another thing which I haven't talked about at all yet, which I'm going to jump on as soon as this current issue is done, and that'll be really cool. But I can't talk about that yet.
I love the teaser too. He's like, it's going to be really awesome. You guys can't hear about it. It's going to be great.
If you're into Tyrant Fall, if you look up some of the stuff I put out for Neon Graveyard, if you're into that, you'll definitely be into this other thing. It's very much sci-fi, which is 100% my bread and butter. Yeah, it's all indie stuff for now. I'm hoping I get a breather. Like, although I love my indie collaborators, I'm hoping I get a breather at some point so I can start throwing it back to some publishers at some point.
Hey, sounds like 2023 is going to be an awesome year for you guys, though. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited. So, I always love ending the show with 2 questions. So first is a piece of advice for anyone who might be listening that's interested in getting into creating comics. So with that being said, we'll keep it easy. For anyone who is just having trouble getting started, motivation and just getting that push, what would be your advice to help them achieve that? If you could just maybe go back to yourself the first day and say something to yourself to help motivate yourself.
Well, I definitely would just say, like, it's that age-old advice, like, but luckily it'd be coming from me to younger me, and hopefully younger me would believe older me. But the first draft, those first couple words, the first panel, everything is going to be garbage. Like you think when you're writing it, you're like, every word is like every drop of ink if you're writing it, or every pixel on the screen is worth its weight in gold, which for pixels isn't much, but but it's not. That first draft of anything is going to be garbage, but it's basically you vomiting onto a page and then shifting through it to find the core, the good stuff. I mean, even like just issue 2, having even written one issue down of Tyrant Fall, working on issue 2, I basically went back and rewrote it after a long hiatus, and I was like, wow, this was not good, and now it is good, and it's so you just if the only thing holding you back from writing is that you're worried it's going to suck, that's not a reason. It is going to suck. But then that's as they say in Adventure Time, that's the first step to getting good at something, is sucking at it first.
Bringing some Jake the dog into it. I love it, man. Max, what about you though, man?
Yeah. If I could sort of distill it into a quick, clean thing, just make it, share it. Brennan is on the money. Like, you're not going to be good at the thing the first time you try it. We learn by doing. That's like as simple as it gets. At my school, we talk about this thing called growth mindset, which you guys may have heard of. And it's just the idea that, like, mistakes are just a natural part of the learning process. You screw up, you get a thing wrong, and all that is a case study in how to do it right. So you're not going to get that information if you don't try it. And the good news is indie comics are in a great space right now. Like with tools like Kickstarter, Indiegogo, all these different crowdfunding platforms. Twitter kind of was a great thing. I don't know.
I mean, it's on fire right now, but
but like there is no better time to do it than the now, whenever that is. So just I make it, share it, get the thing out there, get some feedback. Don't feel too badly if it's not super warmly received at first, because it's not the end. There will be more. You can always make more. You know?
Mindset is important, right? Like being able to defeat that negative thinking in your head and just realize like, hey, this is a case study. That is such a, I'm mind blown by the way you phrase that, because I never thought of that. Like, look at it like, hey, this is why it went wrong. You know, this is how I can make it go right the next time. Awesome advice, you two. Thank you so much. Outside of creating though, what are you guys consuming? You know, video games, movies, TV shows, books, you know, what are you guys doing?
Well, I just started watching The Expanse finally. I'm super late to that. That's very good. I'm playing a lot of, well, I'm not playing a lot of anything, but in the moments where I give myself a little brain break from drawing, I'm playing Warframe, Destiny 2, Fire Emblem Engage. The new Armored Core just went available for pre-order, which I am like right there for.
Thank you, FromSoft.
Yeah, seriously. With all like, they could have put out like a trailer with like farting marshmallows. Like after Elden Ring, doesn't. I'm good.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. I'm pre-ordering it. Yeah. Baldur's Gate 3. If I could like tap my D&D credentials a little bit. I did what was it, like one or two? I don't know. Time is a flat circle. A little while ago, I did some covers for the D&D IDW Dungeons and
wow.
Dragons.
Dude, congratulations.
It was very cool. Thank you. Mindbreaker is a prequel story to the upcoming Baldur's Gate 3 from BioWare.
I used to play the second one on PlayStation 2.
Yeah, so the third one looks dope. And that should be coming out in August, so I'm very excited.
Dude, you have to be geeking out so hard as a gamer, right? Like that's like the ultimate thing, is to do something for a video game. That's cool.
Yeah,
dude.
and I didn't know at the time, so I kind of like lost out on some of that geek excitement, but I found out later, like, oh, this is a prequel. Oh, what? So that was very cool. But yeah, Baldur's Gate 3, and yeah, I think that's everything I'm taking in right now.
Brennan, what about you?
Let's see. Well, video game wise, I've got a huge backlog, but right now I've been working my way through the Mega Man Battle Network games. The Legacy Collection just came out. I was a huge fan of it back in middle school, and so now that they're re-released, I'm going back and I'm like, can't wait.
Was that Game Boy Advance?
Excited. It was on Game Boy Advance back in the day, but now it's on. They've done the Legacy Collection on Switch, so it's been a lot of fun. But besides that, that's really the only thing I have, like, game I have time for right now. My wife and I just finished Wednesday on Netflix. We've been getting into WWE stuff more this year. So I've been watching that, the 2 shows each week. And then other than that, I've been on one of my New Year's resolutions was to try to read 50 books this year. So I've just been I've been moving my way through books. Right now I'm on, oh my God, what is it? Better Served Cold, I think, by Joe Abercrombie. It's a like grim, kind of not grim dark necessarily in the way most people think, but it is kind of a grim dark fantasy story of revenge. So that's been a real fun read.
How many books you at right now?
I would have to double check. I think it's like 8 or so.
Oh, you better get to reading.
Yeah, I know. 50 was a lofty goal, but it was just mostly like, it's like, that's vaguely doable, unrealistically so, but it's, it's a high enough goal that even, if, reaching for it, I might fall short, but I'm going to have read like 30 books this year or something, so that's the goal. Try to read 50 books, but be happy with what I get.
No, that is awesome. For everyone that is watching, right here is the link for this campaign. Be sure to check this out. And like I said, if you can back, we would love to see it. Both simply putting this on Facebook and Twitter is 100% free, and word of mouth helps out a ton. This was one hell of an interview, you two. Thank you so much for coming on the show and breaking down this awesome book. I hope you all have a fantastic day, but most importantly, guys, Keep it geekly.